The main reason why I built the SharePoint site about a year ago was because when the students went to LiveMail, they lost all access to Outlook itself. And I needed Outlook in my department to manage the conference rooms that we have in the building. And what we were doing is we created a single account on the Outlook, and students were all logging in on the same account. If you're doing that now, I'd recommend that you don't do that anymore. That's just bad security, and you really can't have any auditing if something wrong went with that account. Okay? So now each individual student has the ability to log into SharePoint and have the same functionality as Outlook does. So let's just do an example. What we created here is the scheduling for conference room 131, which is this one here. What I asked each of the admin assistants to do, usually they're the ones that book the conference rooms, is to come in, log into the SharePoint site, look for themselves to see what the available times are, and then they can go and they can click on here to reserve that time. Once they fill out this form, it's routed appropriately, and everybody gets a confirmation that that room has been requested for reservation. It's been awesome because we only get phone calls from a couple of people in the building that refuse to look at the calendar, but that's better than the hundreds of calls we would usually get during the day, and I promise it was getting pretty tough to manage. And then we've also been able to alleviate any scheduling conflicts since we've put this into place. The form itself, created with Microsoft InfoPath, which is on each of your guys' computers. If you wanted to create a form yourself, you have it there and you can do it. A cool thing about that is that on our homepage, this is my team's homepage. By the way, this is our employee of the month, Shifu. And he's really good because he knows Cobra, and a lot of people don't really know that program. Do you know, anybody know Cobra? That's why Shifu, he's our employee of the month. If you see here on room requests, you'll be able to see this is the actual room request. So this is an example of 100% paperless routing, where they filled out the actual form, and then I get a list here of who's the one that filled the form out, what the title of the request was, and then details that are inside that form. I never have to print anything out. I can actually share that. And if I wanted to get even more detailed information, like when they booked it, I can look here and it'll tell me on this row when it was booked. So at that point, the best case for the one or two people that are in the building that refuse to use this, the best case for you to not have any conflicts in scheduling is to fill out that form, because we usually do first come, first serve. Any questions on calendaring? Now, the calendaring aspects of this fits into everybody's page. So everybody's page has, we'll go to financial aid. They have their own calendar. And if you guys in your department, you want to create your own calendar where it's just only your department sees that one, then we can create it inside your individual page. Questions on calendaring? Awesome. All right. So let's get into workflow. I think workflow is going to be the next phase that's on there. I kind of gave you an example of how we're using workflow in SharePoint just now with the conference room scheduler. That form has built-in workflow. So what that means is that you would identify who you want the form to be routed to. You can identify if you want it to go in a certain order. For example, I'm working on a PowerPoint presentation and I need Ed's final approval on that, but Ed has a couple people before him that needs to take a look at it before he does it. I can set it up in a sequence to where I send it to a couple of Ed's guys, they approve, and then at that point it's routed to Ed. Ed does his approval, and then I know that it's done. If anybody in between that route denied it, said, hey, this isn't good enough, it's going to come back to me and it'll stop that workflow until I make the changes. All right, now that in itself is a huge collaboration tool for you guys if you're working on documents that everybody needs to have some kind, your team needs to have some kind of input on that. So where would we do that? An example would be going into the shared documents. By the way, everything that I'm teaching you today, when you log in, you can go into the how-to documents. And I created some how-to documents on how to add users to your sites, how to add to your calendar. If you want to map a drive, just like you do to your G drive or Z drives or whatever you have, you can map directly to the SharePoint. So there's a lot of ways that you can do that. So let me give you an example of how workflow would work. I'm working on a CapFax document here. What I can do is I can go to workflows, click on workflows, and this one you're gonna have a choice of either collect feedback or you can do an approval route. Okay? We're gonna do a collect feedback. So I click on that. I want, I guess I'll do Ed. I want Ed to take a look at this for me. I don't know your username, so I'll do a search. Here's one, this is my team's nightmare, by the way. I'll put a task due by, and if they don't do the feedback, SharePoint's going to send you an email reminding you that I need to have that feedback done. So if you don't want to be bugging your people when you want feedback on there, you don't need to put a date on there. All right. You can also CC people on that task, and then I would just start it. So by the way, Ed, you're going to be getting an email here in a little while. Now what it does is it's going to take that document and it's going to send an email to Ed and say, Ed, there's a document here that I would like for you to give me some feedback on. When he opens up that email, it's going to give him the ability to edit that task on the top of your email. He can either go in there, make a change and make comments and say this looks good, send it back, and then it closes the task. Okay? I'm going to get an email that's going to tell me that I just started that workflow. By the way, my email's behind a few years. Come on. All right. Well, we'll wait for my emails to load because I have a bunch of them right now.